What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Hooligans. Make sure you guys rack up those likes, more hooligans. Let me know how you're doing in the chat. I'm going to read through everything really quick, then we'll get started. I'll let you guys know what we're going to be covering here in just a moment. We're going to start off with the White House press briefing. I'll tell you that. It just got over, but that's okay. We'll watch it anyways. Happy Freedom Rasta. What's up, USA Forever? What's up, Saw Dog? What's up, Rotterdam? Goodness, all these new names. That's good to see. What's up, Danger Zone? What's up, Free Breather? What's up, Manuel? What's up, Damon Walker? What's up, Adrian? What's up, Hydrodynamic? Yeah, I see Unicorn Riot is live. I see. I can't show that stuff on YouTube. They will strike me because they are Antifa themselves. They've gotten wise to stuff. What's up, Jane? What's up, Derek? What's up, Nobody's Fault? What's up, Snooks? Happy Freedom. What's up, Jeb? What's up, Matthew? What is up, all of you hooligans? Appreciate you guys being here. What's up, everyone on JeffMAC Live YouTube channel? What's up, Nefties? What's up, Parabellum? What's up, everyone on Twitch? What's up, Silence? What's up, Soul For Real? Happy Freedom, hooligans. Thank you, Silence, for gifting a sub over on Twitch. You're awesome. Thank you. What's up, everyone on Odyssey? What's up, Cerebrus? What's up, Sam? What's up, Anthony? Appreciate you hooligans being here. Happy Freedom. Almost 50 people over on Rumble already. I appreciate you guys watching on Rumble. You are really making a difference to getting us off the YouTube crutches. Every one of you guys on these free speech platforms that just go right there without having to be prompted, you are making it easier to leave YouTube's communism behind. I see Crowder signed an exclusivity contract with Rumble yesterday. So he'll be showing exclusive content with Rumble. There's more people doing that every day. I think that's why Right Side Broadcasting only shows the Trump rallies on Rumble. They show lots of stuff everywhere, but then when it comes down to Orange Eagle getting on stage, they'll cut everything off and only show on Rumble, and I think it's because they're contracted to do that now. What's up, everyone on Rumble? What's up, Film What Matters? What's up, Free Mind Art? What's up, Lifelike? What's up, English? What's up, Pumpkin? What's up, Jeb? What's up, Undercrofter? What's up, CMIC? Appreciate you guys being here. Happy Freedom, Donna Sparks. What's up, everyone on JeffMacLive.com. So I created a page on the JeffMac Live website for historical events. I put the J6 stuff up there, so if you click on the J6 icon, you can now watch all the J6 videos. They're all embedded onto the website. I'll add the Kyle trials and stuff like that as days come. I'm a busy guy. And then last night I decided I wanted to learn more about computer science. So I enrolled in a Harvard University online course for introduction to computer science. Today will be my first day doing that. It's only like a 12-week course or something, but figured it'd be a good way to get my feet wet with Harvard University. Why not? I assume they'll know what they're talking about, right? So on today's schedule, let's see, scrolling. So we're going to be starting off with the White House press briefing at 2 o'clock, which is in 10 minutes. There is a White House event that is titled the International Woman of Courage Award Ceremony. That should be interesting. Happy International Women's Day, ladies, all you lady hooligans. But then we will be covering a video that is titled The FTC is Weaponizing Its Power Against Elon Musk. Then we have a video that is titled We Put a Hit Out on the Wrong Bird. That's a continuation of the article that we covered yesterday. Well, it was a video that we covered yesterday about the individuals that aren't supposed to be here, how they were, I don't know, I think they successfully shot an eagle down and they were supposedly going to eat it. So that's a continuation of that. Where are we at here? Then we're going to be covering a video that is titled "This is an Extraordinary Admission" by KJP. It's talking about the Antifa riot that happened a couple days ago at the Police City construction site, where they had set the equipment on fire and threw rocks and Molotov cocktails at police officers. And then, kind of in the same subject, we have a video that is titled "MTG Introduces Resolution to Designate Antifa as Domestic Terrorists." And then she mentions that event that we're going to cover right before that video. And then we will be wrapping things up on YouTube with a video that is titled "Russell Brand and Tucker Carlson Talk Spiritually and Fame." It's a interesting video. It's lighthearted and whatnot. After that, we will be wrapping up YouTube and continuing on with the free speech platforms, because these other 3 videos that we have are against community guidelines on YouTube. There's nothing we can do about that. Just, it's their rules and I gotta follow them. I've seen the consequences many times, so gotta follow the rules. But we have 3 videos. One of them talks about firearms in Michigan. The next one's talking about J6 and Tucker Carlson. And then the one after that will be talking about Afghanistan. So that is the plan today. Let me read through the chat again really quick, and then we'll get started with this White House press briefing. Spirit Matters. Eating eagles is wrong. I agree. GQ, I will post the Rumble link in just a moment. Edward, National Muff Diving Day. I agree. I'm JeffMAC and I approve of this message all day. Yep, go and get your beard wet. They deserve it. Alright, reading through really quick. Hydrodynamic, bringing the starfish back. Starfish matters. Let's see. Lots of people talking about Rumble in the chat. Yeah, if we could get people to sign up for Locals, that would be awesome. Locals is Rumble's membership program. If we could get all the members from YouTube over onto Locals, that would, we wouldn't have to rely on YouTube. It's all the members over on YouTube that is keeping the power on around here. So I really appreciate you guys, but YouTube is killing me. Just killing me. What's up, F Wuzzy? Thanks for being here. What's up, Frosted Sleep? Mic drop. Somebody, where is it? Going ham on Twitter. Yeah. I go way ham on Twitter. It's because I don't get silenced over there. I can just say what I think. And from the response that I get on Twitter, there's a lot of people that agree with what I say over there, which is really awesome. So I appreciate all of you guys that follow me on Twitter. You guys are amazing. What's up, Carolyn? Happy freedom. So for real, I lost my password on JeffMAC Live. They won't let me reset it. So for real, if you can send me an email, actually I can reset your password, but if you sent me an email, I think I could actually set the password to whatever you want it to be. But I'll reset it, and you should receive an email or something like that for you to click a link. We'll work on it. I'll write a note really quick so I can remember, because I don't remember anything. So give me a second. Alright, I made a note of it. Just a reminder for you hooligans, in like 3 days, on the 11th, I think that's in 3 days, it is my birthday. So if you guys want the P.O. box address, you can actually find it on the contact page of JeffMacLive.com. I made sure it was on there, because I know a lot of you guys want the P.O. box, but may not want to email for it and whatnot, do all that tedious stuff. So I put it on the contact page. Hey, I appreciate you, Sam. Yeah, I want to keep learning, and the more I know about computer science, the better that website's going to be. And, the brighter my future could be. It could lead to all kinds of stuff. I would like to get into application development, but can't do that until I got the basics down. So, 'tis what it 'tis. right, hooligans, let's get her started. Peter's there in the front row. It's gonna be a good one. Having one of those days where I'm just like clicking all the wrong buttons and stuff. I don't know. Gotta shake it off.
Mic check, 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 check.
KJP looks a little different now.
Audio check, 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Check, 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 1 2.
They need 2 people to do it. That's not a one-person job.
Goodness, thank you. A lot going on. Oh, okay. Well, the outfit certainly stands out, my friend. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's good to see you. It's good to see you.
She's trying to look like Marilyn Monroe.
Everybody, good to see everyone.
Make America
happy Wednesday
great
and happy
again.
International Women's Day, a day where we recognize the achievements of women and girls and recommit ourselves to the work of delivering full equality. President Biden has made improving the status of women and girls a cornerstone of his administration, and we are focused on lifting up the rights of women and girls through every aspect of both our foreign and domestic policy. We all have a better future when women and girls are able to reach their full potential. To mark the occasion, First Lady Jill Biden and Secretary of State Anthony J. Blinken will host the 17th Annual International Women of Courage, IWOC, award ceremony later today. The ceremony will take place at the White House for the first time in the award's history. The annual IWOC Award recognizes women from around the globe who have demonstrated exceptional courage, strength, and leadership in advocating for peace, justice, human rights, gender equity, and equality, often at great personal risk and sacrifice. The First Lady wanted to bring the stories of these incredible women to the biggest stage we could, and that is, of course, the White House, and ensure that girls everywhere know that there are women fighting for them, transforming their communities, and building a better world for all of us. On a personal note, I am looking forward to participating and meeting the recipients of this year's awards. And we have some other news for you. The president budget, which we will release tomorrow, will cut the deficit by nearly $3 trillion over the next 10 years. That's nearly a $6 trillion difference between the president's budget and congressional Republicans' agenda, which would add $3 trillion to the debt. Some context here. President Biden took office after his predecessor signed a reckless and unpaid tax handout for the wealthy and large corporations, which added nearly $2 trillion to the deficit. He also inherited a poorly managed pandemic response. The president has taken a different responsible approach. Thanks to his unprecedented vaccination program and economic recovery, the deficit fell by $1 trillion in the first 2 years of the Biden-Harris administration. And the president's Inflation Reduction Act will reduce the deficit by more than $200 billion over the next decade. Building on that record of fiscal responsibility, the president budget cuts the deficit again by nearly $3 trillion over the next decade. The budget achieves this while lowering costs for families, investing in America, and protecting programs Americans have paid into because it proposes tax reforms to ensure the wealthy and large corporations pay their fair share while cutting wasteful spending.
Thank you so much, Lone Wolf, for that $5 donation on YouTube. I appreciate you. Thank you. Also, International Man's Day is November 19th.
$3 trillion to the deficit over 10 years with handouts to the rich, big corporations, and special interest groups. And Josh, it's always good to see you. We always do this. How are you?
I know, I'm good. How are you?
You know, it's Wednesday. It's International Women's Day. It's a good day.
Yeah, they run my house. So
Are you a girl dad?
I am a girl dad.
Girl dads, that's a good thing.
Okay. She's now a BTS fan because of this.
Oh,
That's another subject.
we may have broken them up. So.
Actually, BTS is serving in their military because in Korea you are mandated to serve 2 years in the military.
He essentially proposed what fiscal watchdogs would say were policies that would add to budget deficits. He's now kind of making budget deficit reduction a cornerstone of his policy. Why did this become more of a priority, and what does he think this does for everyday Americans?
So as you just kind of alluded to and laid out, this has been a priority from the president when we talk about deficit reduction, when we talk about being fiscally responsible. This is something that the president has talked about since the campaign. And you hear me, just as I did moments ago, talk about the $1.7 trillion deficit that he did the first 2 years. And it was important to the president as he's going to put forward his budget tomorrow. And as you've probably heard us say, we see this as a value statement on what the president sees in the future of this country. And so he wanted to make sure it was fiscally responsible. And so, look, I think when you think about the deficit reduction and what we're talking about and what it means for Americans, right? This is important to Americans across the country, American families. When you think about lowering costs for families, right? When you think about investing and growing the economy from the bottom up and middle out, the president does not believe in trickle-down economics. This is something that he's talked about even during the State of the Union, where we know it doesn't work. So the president has rejiggered that thinking and wants to build an economy that matters for everyone, asking the wealthy to pay their fair share and cutting wasteful spending on special interest groups. And so this is something that we think is important. This is something that shows the American people that we take this very seriously when we think about the fiscal responsibility, when we think about how do we move forward, not just for Americans today, but for Americans, other generations that are going to be coming behind us. That's why we're talking about
She was having a moment there.
$3 trillion over a decade. That's going to matter. And still doing that by growing the economy and making sure that we don't leave anybody behind. So that's what is important to the president. If you look at it holistically in his economic plan.
And then secondly, the Justice Department released this report on the police in Louisville in Jefferson County, Kentucky after the fatal shooting of Breonna Taylor. I was curious what the White House thought about the findings that the police there engaged in a pattern or practice of conduct that deprives people of their rights, and what obligation does that leave Congress and the White House in terms of addressing these inequities? So
specifically on the investigation that Department of Justice laid out, we know they are independent, so we refer you to any specifics of that particular investigation on their findings. But what I would say more broadly, as we look at this from a 30,000-foot view, the president has said repeatedly he believes that a key part of building trust between law and enforcement and the communities they serve is ensuring that there is accountability when we see an officer violate the law. And this is something that we have been very consistent about. You heard the president talk about this in the campaign and certainly in the last 2 years. That is why he signed an executive order to advance effective accountability, community policing. And this is, remember, he put that forward when this executive order, when Congress was not able to get the job done. And so he took federal action, historic action, to make sure that he was able to deal with this on a federal level. So that executive order required federal law enforcement agencies to implement tighter use of force standards and to greatly
Super tight.
warrants, and has a host of provisions to incentivize those and other reforms at the state and local level. And so I just want to say very clearly that the president has said himself, Breonna Taylor's death was a tragedy, a blow to her family, her community, and also to America more broadly. And the president continues to call for the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act to be sent to his desk that he will sign. The president also understands that black women experience a disproportionate share of violence in this country, and he will continue to fight for legislation that advances police reform and making sure that we keep black communities safe. And so that is going to be his commitment as we continue into his administration.
A question on the economy. The Fed is forecasting, of course, that unemployment may have to go up before they reach their goal. Just wondering if the White House shares the view that unemployment might need to rise in order to keep inflation down.
So look, again, when it comes to the Fed, it is independent. The president believes in its independence, and so he believes in giving the Fed the space needed to make decisions on monetary policy. As it relates to unemployment and we've heard the comments that have been made in Congress. When we look at the recent economic indicators, when we look at the data, it is not consistent with a recession or even a precursory period. And the reason why, as you see unemployment,
The status of our bank accounts say otherwise.
that's a record low. More than 500,000 jobs were created last month, representing.
This is the only administration that will tell you that all those missing dollars in your bank account that you're used to having there is normal, and it's not a part of a recession. It's not a part of rising inflation.
Above the pre-pandemic levels and measures of
The lack of food in your fridge doesn't mean you're starving.
pre-pandemic levels as
They're
well.
ridiculous.
So the data, the indicators, those economic indicators that I just laid out, shows us that, again, we're in a strong position as we move forward.
But how concerned are you that if unemployment does go up, that it may hinder that very economic message? Because unemployment is, as you just did, is often, a bright point that the president points to.
But I think the reasons I laid out the economic indicators, they're showing us that because of the
What's the economic indicators?
economic plan, we see that his plan is working. And I think that's important to point out, too. We understand that there is concerns. We always say there's always more work to do, obviously. But our economists believe that what the president has put forth as a plan to make sure that we're building an economy from the bottom up, middle out, is indeed working. And we see that in the data when you look at the unemployment record low, when you look at wages going up. And that is occurring because of the work that we have done. Now, is there more work to do? Of course. But again, those indicators give us confidence.
Just a quick logistical question. This is the second day in a row where the president hasn't had any public events on his schedule. What's he up to, and is there a strategy to have it
What's he up to? What is the
eye
president up to?
before this big speech tomorrow?
So look, yesterday, as I think we read out two heads of state calls that he had with, I believe, with the Oman and also with President Macron. We read those two calls out, and so the president is always working, always making sure that he not even always making sure, he does have the American people at the top of mind every day. He is constantly meeting with his senior staff, and you will see him tomorrow for the big day as we roll out the president's budget. Okay.
Corinne, thank you. Could you confirm our reporting that President Biden is going to host the Australian and British prime ministers in San Diego on Monday?
So don't have anything for you at this time on the AUKUS, and as soon as we have more information, surely we'll share that. And as you know, every Friday we lay out the president's week ahead. I just don't have anything to preview at this time or to announce.
Okay, and then I just wanted to see if there's a reaction to Senator Manchin saying he's going to vote against your nominee to lead the IRS.
So let me first say that our relationship, the president has a long-standing relationship with Senator Manchin that goes back years, certainly over a decade, and we respect our relationship with him. We have been able to deliver for the American people historic, really consequential pieces of legislation, and so we appreciate the closeness and how we've worked well with Senator Manchin. As it relates to our nominee, Danny Werfel is a public and private sector leader who has served under both Democratic and Republican administrations. Of course, more than 15 years of government service. He served President Barack Obama, as some of you know, and President George W. Bush to lead some of our most complex management challenges of the IRS, acting commissioner and Office of Management and Controller at the OMB. As I just laid out, he's worked for both a Democrat and a Republican, so has had that bipartisan experience as well. He's well qualified for this position. He was reported from finance with bipartisan support, and we urge the Senate to confirm him to this important role at an incredibly crucial time. Again, but we appreciate our relationship with Senator Manchin, which has been fruitful, especially as we speak to delivering for the American people.
And just finally, I saw that you had a comment out this morning about some broadcasting on the Tucker Carlson program on Fox, and I was just curious if you had any broader comment about the ongoing lawsuit between Dominion Voting Systems and Fox News, which has turned up evidence that there may have been falsehoods in the reporting that they did around the election, which Fox, I should say, has said that those are cherry-picked anecdotes. But do you have a reaction to that?
Yeah, I do have a reaction. Look, we agree with the chief of Capitol Police and the rage of bipartisan lawmakers. You heard them all yesterday. You guys reported on it, who have condemned this false depiction of the unprecedented violent attack on our Constitution and the rule of law, which cost police officers their lives. And that's what we saw on that day, on a very dark day, an attack on our democracy. And so we also, as it relates to the Tucker Carlson question, we agree with Fox Nation's own attorneys and executives who have repeatedly stressed in multiple courts of law that Tucker Carlson is not credible when it comes to this issue in particular. And we have, NPR back in September of 2020. They had the following: you literally can't believe the facts Tucker Carlson tells you. So say Fox's lawyers. Again, in Washington Post, most recently, just a day ago, Fox executive Hannity Carlson shows are not credible sources of news. And so to have said what he said when we saw Capitol police officers lose their lives, or police officers lose their lives, is just shameful.
Thanks, Doreen. So for over a month now, President Biden has been saying that this budget blueprint that he's going to release is going to have $2 trillion in deficit reduction. You guys are now saying it's nearly $3 trillion. So could you give us a sense of how you got there and why that number has increased? Are there specific revenue raisers or spending cuts that you've now added that weren't previously there?
So I'm going to be mindful. The president's going to put out his budget tomorrow. Certainly not going to get ahead of the specifics on how that all looks. I know you guys were asking me about math yesterday, so I'm going to lay that out. I did talk about quadrupling the tax on corporate stock buybacks. It's something he's already mentioned in the past, making the wealthy and big corporations pay their fair share without raising taxes on Americans that are making less than $400,000.
I'm really surprised the reporters even show up at this point.
Groups like Big Pharma, which are things that we have talked about. But as for the specifics and laying that out, we will be transparent with the American people, and certainly you'll see that tomorrow, and the president's going to go to Philly to speak to that. The changes that you saw from $2 trillion to $3 trillion, as we work through the budget process, the proposals that the president supported and wanted to include in this year's budget added to nearly $3 trillion in deficit reduction. Again, I was just asked by Josh the importance that the president sees in making sure that we deal with the deficit in a way that is important to the American people. This is something that he's talked about since the campaign, and he believes in being fiscally responsible, and that's what you're going to see from the president tomorrow.
And then on this new bill relating to TikTok, the administration has now thrown its support behind this Restrict Act that would give the administration new powers to restrict or ban TikTok in the U.S. Why did the administration decide that now was the time for congressional action? And more broadly, what's the strategy here? Is there frustration with the status of the talks between TikTok and CFIUS, and is this aimed at giving negotiators more leverage?
You know, I have to say, we've talked about this many times, and we have said we were working closely with Congress on when it relates to TikTok. And look, we commend the bipartisan group of senators led by Senators Warren and Thune, who introduced the Restrict Act. And as I'm sure you guys saw the statement from our National Security Advisor, the President National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, just yesterday. And we want to make sure that the digital products and services Americans use every day are safe and secure. And we've talked about this multiple times. I think this came up a few times yesterday in the briefing room. And we have said we were going to continue to have the conversation with Congress. And we think this bipartisanship and moving this important issue to the American people forward is important. And so, look, you know, we got to make sure that there's a comprehensive way, an effective way to address this issue.
Are you still hoping that an agreement can be reached between CFIUS and TikTok, or are you now looking to act unilaterally based on these?
Look, we've talked about there was a CFIUS
Syphilis?
on this, and we're going to let that review continue and continue to focus. Let them continue to focus on their work. But we've also said that we're going to work with Congress closely, and this is what you're seeing in a bipartisan way, which I think is important to lay out.
And just a quick one: Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has now called on President Biden to allow the tennis player Novak Djokovic to compete in the Miami Open, despite him being unvaccinated for COVID-19. Do you guys have a response to that?
So on a question of regarding the vaccination requirement, I refer you to the CDC. They're the ones who deal with that. It's still in place, and we expect everyone to abide by our country's rule, whether as a participant or a spectator. And as for what goes on specifically with the BNP Open, those are questions for them. It is a private entity, and so we will let them speak to that. But again, this is something that the CDC speaks to. Okay.
Thank you so much. On the budget, just to follow up quickly on that, as you said, it will include a number of proposals for tax increases. What are Americans supposed to make of that, given that a number of Republican lawmakers have said that's already dead on arrival?
So I was saying this a little bit at the top, where when you look at the budget, is a statement of the president's values. And if you think about the 81 million people who voted, they voted for a growing economy from the bottom up, the middle out. They voted for investing in America and lowering costs for families. They voted for protecting and strengthening Social Security and Medicare and reducing the deficit by more than.
There's so much I want to say that I can't say because YouTube's here.
Big corporation pay their fair share. When you look at that,
Oh my goodness.
the last point that I just made, that is something that Americans believe in. And so that is what you're seeing. When we're saying that we're going to, make sure that the wealthy pay their fair share. The ones who are the specific piece of the president's policy is the someone who makes more than $400,000. That's something that Americans believe, right? They think the wealthy and corporations should indeed pay their fair share. And so that's what you're going to see. This is nothing new. This is something the president has spoken to many times, and we see support for that.
Understood, but given that the president has talked about the importance of bipartisanship, he is now dealing with a divided Congress. There doesn't seem to be anything in those tax increases that are an olive branch. Should people see this within the broader context of 2024?
No, I get, and you're right. The president believes in working in a bipartisan way. That's why he's been very clear. If Republicans in Congress want to work with the president on lowering costs, right? This is something that they ran on during the midterms, how they want to move forward in that way. The president's going to work with them. If they want to talk to the president about how we're going to reduce the deficit, he's willing to have that conversation. But that's not what they're putting forth. And the president's going to fight for those things, right? It's those programs that they've been talking about cutting, Social Security and Medicare. The president's not going to allow that on his watch.
I want to just ask you about the footage that was released by Speaker McCarthy. Speaker McCarthy said his decision to release the footage to Tucker Carlson was out of transparency. What is your reaction to that, and does the president want to see Speaker McCarthy release all of the footage broadly to other news outlets and the American people?
Look, I'm not going to speak directly to that at this time. That's something that that the January 6th committee and clearly the DOJ is dealing with, and so I'm just not going to speak to that. That is something that the speaker needs to answer from his colleagues and to the American people.
Well, let me ask it this way. Does the White House feel the need to set the record straight about the footage that exists?
Look at Peter.
Happened on that day in the wake of the footage that has been released?
Can you say more? Like, what do you like?
Does the White House feel as though basically all of the footage should be released so people can see it within its full context?
So the president believes we need to get to the bottom of what happened on a very dark day in our democracy. The president has been very clear about that. We need to get to the bottom of what occurred. The footage that we have seen, the footage that the American people have seen, is devastating. And what we saw was an attack on our Constitution, was an attack on our democracy.
If you guys want to see what actually happened that day, you're welcome to come watch our footage over on JeffMACLive.com. It has its own page now.
To the bottom.
It's like 16 hours worth of footage. We covered it all day.
Spoken to the families of those killed in Mexico and those kidnapped.
So, as you know, I'm not sure if
That was actually the last day we were free on YouTube. They put so many community guidelines the next day.
I don't have a call.
We couldn't show any of that stuff anymore.
Conversations to read out at this time.
To get in touch with
I just don't have anything more to share. Clearly, our hearts go out to the family members who lost loved ones. It is devastating. Clearly, the news that we heard and the reports and what we know of the case thus far, and so our hearts go out to them. I just don't have anything to read out. Okay, Nancy.
Thanks, Karina. I know you said you didn't want to get ahead of the president and his speech tomorrow, but there are some details that are out there, so I wanted to see if you would confirm some or all of them. One is that
Some, all of them, one.
all of them.
Not at
would be
all,
best.
maybe.
One is that the president is proposing a 5.2 federal pay hike, which would be the largest federal pay hike since Jimmy Carter's presidency?
So, of course, you're going to have to wait for the budget on that piece. But what I can say more broadly is, we value the federal employees, what they do for the nation day in and day out, and recognize their commitment and dedication. And so we think it is critical. It is critical to position federal government to better compete in labor market to attract and retain a well-qualified federal workforce. As the president has said, the strength of our organization rests in its people. But I'm not going to. I can't share everything, Nancy. I'm not going to get ahead of the president.
Can you share this? A new 20%, well, I guess it's not new because he has proposed something similar before, but a new 20% minimum tax for billionaires or people making over $100 million a year.
I'm just not going to get ahead of the president at this time. You'll see the budget.
Look at Peter feeling like he's in hostile territory.
So
In like less than 24 hours.
So back to the Restrict Act for a moment. Is it the president's intention to ban TikTok on U.S. phones if the Restrict Act passes and gives him that ability?
I'm not going to get into specifics of the legislation. Just not going to do that at this time. What I will say, and we have called for this, and I think, Kristen was asking me about working in a bipartisan way, and you see that here on a critical issue. As we talk about our national security, you saw Congress come together to deal with an app that we have said we have concerns with, but I'm not going to get into individual pieces or authorities within the legislation, and we're just going to let it play out.
Should we take the administration's position on the Restrict Act to mean that the White House does not believe that ByteDance has gone far enough to ensure that its American users' data is safeguarded from the Chinese government? ByteDance says it's spent $1.5 billion so far to ensure that information doesn't fall into the wrong hands.
So I think this is an answer that I'll give you more broadly, which is we have said we have concerns with this particular app, TikTok. We have said that as it relates to our national security, as it relates to individual Americans who use this, and we want to make sure that we protect Americans. And we've always said protecting Americans is, especially as it relates to national security, is
What about Ohio?
this president. And that's
What about the border? What about the cartels?
doing its review.
What about the riots? What about all that stuff? What about the jab?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to, I know you don't want to get ahead.
Keep protecting us.
But,
Doing great.
The theme of the day.
Yes, just taking this top line number of nearly $3 trillion in deficit reduction over 10 years, still the deficit is going to be huge over the next 10 years, and billions or trillions of dollars will be added to the national debt. There are critics who I've spoken to who say that this budget, although a statement of priorities, doesn't go far enough in dealing with the structural problems that the United States faces fiscally. So, I mean, the president has expressed concerns about the deficit. Does he think his budget goes far enough?
So look, let's let the president speak to his budget tomorrow. We'll lay that out, and he can speak to that. But you just said something, Tam, that is so important, which is, the last administration added $3 trillion or $2 trillion to the debt when they put forward a really irresponsible piece of legislation that gave tax breaks to the wealthy, especially millionaires and billionaires, right? That is something that we've had to deal with, and we have to really call that out. And that continues. That continues with this current Congress, where Republicans are saying that they want to, cut or get rid of or repeal IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, which would add to that deficit, because we know the Inflation Reduction Act actually lowers the deficit by more than $200 billion. So we are trying to counter and really be fiscally responsible in what we're seeing on the other side. And so here's the thing. The American people support what we're doing, and there is a choice to be made. How do we move forward here? How do we make sure that it is what we're putting forward in this budget is fiscally responsible? That's what you're seeing from this president. And he has said over and over again in the last 3 years or more that he wants to make sure that we are reducing the deficit. I'm not going to get ahead of the president tomorrow. He's certainly going to lay out his budget. He will go point by point on how he sees this is a a budget that is important to the American people, and just not going to get ahead of that. I think it's good news that we went from $2 trillion over a decade, not to 3
Come on, KJP, you don't think at all.
His team
Your brain doesn't work at all.
the budget and realize, hey, we can actually, this is going to be an extra $1 trillion in lowering the deficit in the next decade. And that shows how committed his team is and how committed the president is as well.
Just
Make
one other
America
small
great
question, and
again.
I realize this was probably asked yesterday, but is the White House treating this as a major address? Or is this a, like, typically a budget gets rolled out and it's just like a big paper dump and maybe like a small speech in a small room, and this is the president going to another city. So are you treating this budget unlike other budgets?
I think the way to see this budget is that the president wants to lay out in a transparent way to the American people how he sees us moving forward as it relates to the fiscal year, as it relates to the budget. And I keep saying this because it's true in the fiscal
You wouldn't know what transparency was if it was burning your house down.
in Congress talking about how they're going to release a budget. And we are calling on them to show us what's in your budget. How is it going to be transparent? Is it going to be fiscally responsible? And the thing that makes us really speak to this even more is because they have talked about, as you all have reported, in cutting some programs that are incredibly, 2 programs and more that are incredibly important to the American people: Social Security, Medicare, ACA, Medicaid. That's what they're saying they want to move forward with. And the president is saying, you know what, I'm going to continue fighting for the American people. I'm going to continue fighting for taxpayers who have paid into these programs since they started their first job, some of them as teenagers. And so we're going to continue to call that out. And this also plays into how the president is growing an economy that works for all. So that is important to the president. He thinks it's important to the American people, and he's going to lay that out tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Karine. 2 questions. The first is about the Iranian warships in Brazil. Is the White House communicating with the Brazilian government about this, and did the administration raise concerns with the Brazilian government? Because we know there was pressure for Brazil not to let the warships to dock there. There are some calls also here for sanctions on Brazil. So
this question has been asked a couple times in the briefing room, and we've pretty much been consistent. Look, Brazil is a sovereign country. They make their own decision on how they engage with any country, including with Iran. But more broadly, these ships have been designated for U.S. sanctions and have been used to facilitate illicit activities. We have made clear to relevant countries that these ships have no business docking anywhere, hosting Iranian naval vessels belonging to a regime that is brutally suppressing its own people at home, providing weapons to Russia for use in its war aggression against Ukraine, and engaging in terrorism and destabilizing weapons proliferation around the world, sends the wrong message and is in a wrong direction. So we'll always be very clear about that. But again, as you know, Brazil is a sovereign country, and they are allowed to engage, make their decision on how they're going to engage with another country.
one more question about the president of the European Commission, who is meeting President Biden on Friday, and she's expected to raise concerns about some of the green subsidies for American companies that are part of the Inflation Reduction Act. Because they hurt investments in Europe. And there have been some discussions with both sides in the last few months. So how would you characterize the status of those negotiations, and would the U.S. meet some of the Europeans' demands?
So just a couple things. The first thing is I'm not going to get ahead of a visit that with the European Union president. I just don't want to get ahead of what's going to be on the agenda and what will come out of that discussion. Certainly we'll have more to share as we get closer to Friday. Look, of course, are deepening our cooperation with EU to develop secure, high-standard supply chains and consistent with our objectives to increase domestic manufacturing will be the topic of conversations with President von der Leyen here when she's here on Friday. The IRA's benefits expand beyond the U.S. As you've heard me say before, our investment will help drive down costs for clean technology. technology, which will help our nation go further and faster in building our own clean energy economies. So energy security is national security. That's the way we see it. But I'm certainly not going to get ahead of the visit at this time.
Okay, thanks. Medical experts say that a nationwide shortage of liquid albuterol used for asthma and other lung conditions is expected to get worse because there was a shuttering of a major manufacturer. This drug has been on the FDA shortage list since the fall, but is the White House concerned about this right now? And what does the White House see as the cause of this specific shortage that's causing headlines right now?
So I would refer you to the FDA. As you just stated, Karen, this is something that they've been monitoring since this past fall. And as we've done, with periodically with shortages of medical products, I know you've asked me multiple questions about other products. Federal health officials are working closely with manufacturers, as we have done again with past products, and healthcare providers to alleviate any choke on the system. And don't want to hesitate to take further action if necessary, using all tools that they have available. But this is certainly something that the FDA is tracking, has been tracking for months now, and we're going to continue to have conversations with the manufacturers. And we take, of course, they take this seriously.
So there have been steps taken by the FDA and the administration.
This is something that they've been tracking. They've been having conversation with manufacturers, and this is something that, of course, with like any other product that has come up where there was a potential shortage or some questions of shortage, they've dealt with this.
Broadly, does the White House believe it's the job of the administration to make sure that there aren't shortages of vital medications like this?
I mean, you've seen us take action. We've seen the FDA take action over a host of products, as I just mentioned, to talk to manufacturers to see what's going on, to see how we can be helpful, if at all possible, because we think it's important.
Thanks, Corinne. A couple different topics here. First, on the DOJ report, does the president view the DOJ report on Louisville as an engine to revive any of the bipartisan police accountability measures that failed to materialize in Congress in 2021?
So, as I said at the top, we believe that, and the president has continued to say this over the last several months since that since the George Floyd Policing Act did not go through, he's called on Congress to move forward with it. He took executive action to see what he would be able to do using the tools in front of him on a federal level to act. But he is going to continue to call on that. He did most recently, and so that is not going to change. It is up to Congress. Congress needs to move forward in a bipartisan way so he can sign that bill into law.
And on the national security front, Jake Sullivan had said last month that while no call was currently scheduled between President Biden and President Xi, that he anticipated that the two leaders would speak in the not too distant future. Did the comments from the Chinese foreign minister change the timing of that prospective call in any way?
Well, there's no call to preview. We don't have one on the books at this time to lay out for you in this moment. And I kind of answered this question. Well, I was asked this question about our approach and our relationship with China yesterday, and I would say that it hasn't changed. It is one of competition, not conflict, and that's how we're going to continue to move forward with China. Of course, it is important to keep those open lines of conversation with the Chinese government. You saw yourself with Secretary Blinken when he was in Munich. He met with his counterpart, Wang Yi, and so that is what we want to continue to see. I don't have a call at this time to preview.
And then lastly, the president had said in an interview last month that he, quote, had too many other things to finish in the near term before he starts a campaign. The budget is a big one on that list. What else does he want to finish in the near term future?
Well, I think the State of the Union pretty much laid out how the president sees his work moving forward. Yes, the State of the Union lays out the state of the nation and where we are currently, but he also had a very forward way of seeing how we need to continue to grow the economy for Americans, not leave anybody behind. You're going to see that in his budget as you just laid out, which he'll speak to tomorrow. And he thinks it's very important that he continues to do the work. We have to build on the bipartisan infrastructure legislation. We have to build on the Inflation Reduction Act. And what I will say about the Inflation Reduction Act, in that Just recently, we heard from Eli Lilly, who listened to the call that the president put forth about lowering insulin costs for Americans, which they were able to do, which is building on what the president laid out in the Inflation Reduction Act. When you think about insulin, lowering that insulin cost to $35 for seniors, and now they were able to do it for all of their for everyone, not just seniors. And so those are the things that the president wants to continue to do, wants to continue to see. How are we going to lower costs for American families? How we're going to build an economy that leaves no one behind? And what the budget is just one part of that. I have 2 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna try and go to the back. Go ahead, Courtney. Go ahead, Courtney.
Thanks, Green. I wanted to follow up on the bill I had asked you about a couple days ago. The Senate passed bill on declassifying certain information about the origins of COVID. Has the president made a decision on?
So I would just refer you to the ODNI on that piece. I don't have anything else to share on that. Go ahead.
Colleen, quick question, 2 quick questions on the Mexican kidnapping. Can you tell us if there are U.S. agents on the ground in Mexico cooperating to find these kidnappers? López Obrador has said he doesn't want intervention, so I'm just wondering what this working together looks like.
So as I mentioned, well, first let me just say we are saddened to hear about the 2 individuals. I think it's important to say that, who were killed. We send our condolences, I said this a little bit earlier, to their families and friends during this time. We understand this is a difficult time for them. You heard the Attorney General say yesterday that the United States will be relentless in pursuing justice for the victims. We will do everything in our power to identify, find, and hold accountable the individuals responsible for this attack. And we continue to work in coordination with the Mexican government, and we mentioned the U.S. law enforcement.
She needs to come on and call on Peter.
The FBI, DEA, and DHS have been working.
You guys should definitely go find a spot over on Rumble, Odyssey, or JeffMacLive.com. Almost everything they talked about in this press briefing is putting me at risk over here on YouTube.
Priority for us.
It's really concerning because my birthday's coming up and I want to go live and spend the day with you guys, but I won't be able to if I get a strike. So if you guys want to hang out for my birthday, make sure you guys are on one of the free speech platforms.
The FTO, the foreign terrorist organizations, look, designating these cartels as FTOs would not grant us any additional authorities that we don't really have at this time. So the United States has powerful sanctions authorities specifically designated to combat narcotics trafficking organizations and the individuals and entities that enable them. So we have not been afraid to use them. In the last few months alone, Treasury has announced a series of actions against cartels that are danger to the public safety. And we have also taken action that further enables Treasury to sanction foreign persons who knowingly receive property tax constituents. So it is derived from proceeds of illicit drugs, trafficking activities, and this means that drug traffickers can no longer use family or friends to hide their assets from the reach of the U.S. government. So again, we don't believe that this will grant us any additional authorities, and so I will leave it there, and I will see you all tomorrow. Oh, not tomorrow, Friday. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Be happy. Just delete the stream. You can't. If you delete the stream and they give you a strike, you can't appeal on it, and customer service cannot appeal on your behalf. You're deleting your ability to appeal. So I have to leave it up. But I'm telling you, if they strike me, I will not see you guys until May. Like, I don't know how much more clear I can be. I mean, I'm way more transparent than the White House. They're hovering over me, just waiting for me to slip up, and they will get me for anything. When they first started the firearms rules where you can't show firearms, and it was in the middle of covering the protests, I had got a strike for the ICE agents holding pepper ball guns, which are paintball guns. And I got a strike for firearms. And I sent YouTube the federal description of what a firearm is and explained to them that a paintball gun does not meet that description. And they said that even if I was flagged for camera equipment, say somebody was holding a tripod for camera equipment and I get hit for a strike for firearms, to them it's now a firearm. They said they don't care. Like they don't care. 24/7, save as private, doesn't matter. The only thing saving as private will do is prevent people from reporting your video. It doesn't prevent the system from hitting you. I get hit by the system. Trolls don't like hanging out here because they're not even allowed to get into the chat. They get in here and they get chewed up by hooligans and then they leave. I'm not being reported. I'm being hit by YouTube themselves. So, I mean, I don't know what else to do. I'll be deleted before we get everybody over. But it is what it is. And I actually got a notice right before I went live. You're probably not going to be able to read it. Hold on a second. Anyways, I got a notice at the top of my YouTube studio when I started the live saying that we've updated our inappropriate language ad guidelines that we announced November 30th, saying that they're now going to enforce inappropriate language guidelines. So if you swear, your videos will be demonetized. You will not be able to get ad revenue on YouTube if you say swear words, any swear words. So that's a new thing. I don't know. Everything's imploding on YouTube, and I don't know how to explain it any clearer to you guys. But that's why I'm trying to get you over to these free speech platforms. Crowder just came over to Rumble. Salty's over on Rumble. Lots of people are coming over to Rumble. But I also built a whole website for us to hang out on. We have our own social media. We have our own live streaming area. It supports what I do. It's private. There's nobody watching over us, waiting to discipline us or punish us for free speech or just talking about things that are relevant. I mean, I'm not even doing anything wrong. Half the time it's not even me talking, it's the White House talking. I'll post the links again to Rumble and everything. We got more to cover on YouTube before we switch over, but I see everybody asking for the links. Cash flow, time to stop using YouTube. I can't afford to. That's the problem, is I can't afford to. So what I noticed yesterday is we're getting just as many views as we are on YouTube now. Like, we're getting equal views. We have equal viewers on both platforms, which is great. But we have so many members on YouTube, that's what's actually keeping things going. If we could get those members to either go to JeffMACLive.com or Rumble or even Odyssey and join the membership programs through there, we wouldn't need to be on YouTube anymore. That is what's keeping us here, is that. Because when we go to Rumble at the end of the live and we got extra stuff to show that's against community guidelines, I see most people carry over. But having memberships on YouTube, which I'm very grateful for, it's literally what's keeping us going. If those memberships were to carry over to these free speech platforms, we wouldn't even go live on YouTube anymore. I can't stand being live on YouTube. I appreciate all of you hooligans and all of you that come and hang out and watch on YouTube. Like, don't get me wrong, but the platform itself is toxic. It is so severely toxic. They don't want anyone on YouTube unless it's cat videos, dog videos, ASMR, or you're a news broadcaster. It's got millions of followers like Fox or CNN and you know, all these mainstream platforms. That's all they want. YouTube does not care about creators. And that's because they're starting YouTube TV. That's going to compete with Netflix and Hulu and all these other companies. They do not care about creators at this point. They're going to eventually do away with all of us. And it's only going to be videos and stuff. That's why when you're scrolling on YouTube, you see so much advertisement to rent or buy a movie to watch on YouTube. That's why. Is because they're doing away with creators and they're trying to be more like Netflix. Because it's less work for them. They can fire half their staff. They can just make money off people renting and buying movies. They don't have to hover over us creators to see if we're politically correct or not. That's the future of YouTube. But as a viewer, you don't see it as impacting on your end as creators see it, where every time you log into your studio to see how your videos are doing, to see how your stats are doing, you have all these warnings or strikes or copyright flags and all this other. It's like the sky's falling every time you log into YouTube, and it sucks and it's stressful. It is stressful. It's hard to do what you want to do in a positive way when you're constantly getting cracked down on over nothing. It's dumb. So I just posted the link to Rumble, to the actual live we're on right now, so you guys can come check it out if you would like. I suggest using a browser. We still have more to show on YouTube, so we're not at that point yet. But if you would like to come over to Rumble and all of that stuff, that's the link to the actual live we're watching right now. There is a join button on the screen. If you click the join button, it is to join the membership program over there. It will give you access to Locals. Locals is social media that's owned by Rumble, but the membership is for Rumble pretty much. But if you're going to go over there, I suggest using a browser like Chrome or Safari or Mozilla or whatever it is you use. That way you can see the live chat. Their app still needs some work, but now that they got Crowder over there, I'm sure they're going to be investing more money into making the platform more user friendly and stuff like that. So tis what it is. It just makes me upset because we cover the White House press briefing so we can see what they're talking about, everything they're talking about, which are relevant topics, even though they're lying about all of it. Puts me at risk of community guidelines. My birthday is on the 11th. The only plan I have that is set in stone for my birthday is to sit here with you hooligans and hang out. That's all I have to look forward to. I'm not wording that right. That is what I am looking forward to. That is the biggest part of my birthday, is to sit here with you guys and hang out and laugh and joke around and have a good time. It is literally the highlight of my birthday, and now I have to sit here and stress, am I going to get a strike between now and then? Because sometimes it takes like 3 to 5 days to receive the strike for a video that, happened back then. Now I might not be able to spend my birthday with you guys because a lot of you just want to stay on YouTube, and if you don't get the notification from YouTube, you won't show up. That's why I try to get you guys to go to Gilded, so you can always get notifications. If you join the website, you'll get notifications. We have a messaging system and an alert system and all that on the website. You have to have a membership, but I don't know what else to do. I want to be able to reach you guys. I want to be able to hang out with you for my birthday, and now I got to stress about this stuff and be like, oh, I'm going to have to sit here and, hang out with who I can instead of having everybody show up and everybody have a good time and stuff like that. And it's stressful. It is very stressful. It's more stressful than I can put into words. Anyways. Moving forward, we'll see if this is live since it is past due. The White House is supposed to be doing the International Women's Courage Award ceremony. That's why KJP had to run away. I'm sure this is already going on if it's not already over, so we're going to cover this. Let me check on it really quick. They got Jill Handler on stage right now. Oh, they got what's his name? Doug Hansley over here doing the hand signing too. It's Girth Hands. Hold on, let me get this pulled up here. Hand sign person. How dare thee show up for the International Women's Ceremony. Kevin, get a civil rights attorney. So Section 230, which protects the internet, basically everything on the internet, social media and all of that stuff, Section 230 specifically says that they have the right to take down your content or do whatever they want to your account, even if it is constitutionally protected. It literally says that in Section 230. Now, according to the law of the land, any laws that go against the Constitution is not a law. But you see how the administration is running things. So, it literally says they can step on your rights even if they are constitutionally protected. And there's nothing you can do about it. So getting an attorney or anything like that it's not going to do anything. It's just going to cost me money. It would just be better if everybody came over to the free speech platforms and we could keep rolling. We wouldn't have to worry about suing people and stuff. All right, let's get this started, hooligans. I hate that. I get all upset and then I kill the mood and then everybody leaves, and I hate that. But it matters to me because I care about all of this. I care about all of you guys, and I just want you guys to understand and share the message. This happened to Salty Cracker not that long ago. It happened to me in October. I got 2 strikes in a row for deleted videos that were 5 weeks old. And I built the website. I spent all the money I had saved up to build this website. And I'm literally going to start a course at Harvard today for computer science so I can continue working on the website and understand what I'm doing and implement good things over there. But then I seen Salty Cracker went through the same thing. He got a strike for videos he deleted. And I wish that I had a bigger voice and people carried my messages a little farther, because then he wouldn't have went through that and other creators wouldn't have gone through that. I don't say this stuff to bring everybody down. I say this stuff so everybody knows what's happening. Either way, let's get this started. I'm trying to skip ahead to relevant points of this video. It's live right now, but we're trying to start from the beginning. Blue Moon. We have lots today. We'll be live for like the next 2-3 hours. Scott, your birthday was yesterday? Well, happy belated birthday. It's awesome. Fellow Pisces. My apologies if everybody just crapped their pants. I did too. I was trying to fast forward a little bit.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please take a seat.
Prostitute.
And it is a special honor for me to be able to say, welcome to the White House.
I'm gonna grab some coffee. I'll be right back.
And welcome especially to the 2023 International Women of Courage Award Ceremony to all of you participating here in person and tuning in from around the world. For 17 years now, U.S. Secretaries of State have recognized international women of courage who are leading the charge for progress around the world. This year, for the first time, we honor the awardees here at the White House. And that really is a reflection of just how highly President Biden, First Lady, and this administration prioritize gender equality and human rights. Dr. Biden, thank you for bringing us here today. But thank you more than that for everything that you're doing every single day to be such a remarkable role model to so many women around the world, and for your incredibly tireless efforts to lift up the voices of brave women everywhere around the world.
Thank you.
So,
yeah, clap right into that microphone.
Across the globe, who are essential partners in all of our efforts to make sure that women and girls can reach their full potential. We have senior leaders from across the United States government here. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield, our champion, our voice at the United Nations. Deputy Secretary of Defense.
What's a woman?
Undersecretary of State Zaya, our advocate for human rights, Jen Klein, Kat Fotovat, who are leaders of our global gender policy, and of course, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, also such a powerful voice for our country and for this administration around the world. And I also want to point out our team from the Bureau for Educational and Cultural Affairs. We're working with so many of you every single day in the work that you're doing. We're also joined by members of the State Department's locally employed staff. They're literally the lifeblood of our missions in every country in the world. To be here today, some of them have traveled from more than a dozen countries in Asia, Africa, Europe, South America, and the Middle East. It's wonderful to be with you today as well. Thank you. And in the audience, we have several previous winners of the International Women of Courage Award who are continuing their inspiring work. And the First Lady and I had an opportunity to greet them, to be able to say in person what we were not able to do the last couple of years, which is congratulations and thank you for the incredible work that you're doing. And of course, last but not least, our guests of honor, this year's International Women of Courage. Welcome to all of you. When Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice launched this initiative in 2007, she did so to honor women creating brighter futures for themselves, for their communities, and for generations to come. Since then, this award has recognized more than 180 women from over 80 countries around the world. And that includes this year's honorees, 11 truly extraordinary people. As you'll hear, these women are reporting on Russian atrocities in Ukraine. They're fighting for equal opportunities for women and girls in Mongolia. They're defending democracy in the Central African Republic. They're protecting indigenous land in Costa Rica. They're advocating for the rights of refugees, people with disabilities, the LGBTQI+ community. Because of their work, and even as they do it every single day, they are faced with extraordinary challenges that, as you learn about them, read about them, are humbling. Their loved ones, in many cases, have endured harassment. They've endured violence. Some have been imprisoned. Others have been subject of misinformation and online attacks, day in, day out. And yet, each and every one has refused to be intimidated. In every region, there are other women doing this work who we can't name individually, in some cases because the attention would put them at even greater risk. So we found a new way to honor them. This year, we're launching a group award named after a pioneer and champion of equality, the great Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright. We have several members of the Albright family here today to help us celebrate. I like to think I'm an extended member of that family. For me, as I've told our friends, I hear Madeleine Albright's voice in my head on a regular basis. The clarity with which she spoke and what she said continues to resonate and continues to inspire me in the work that I and my team are doing. But you honor us with your presence today. Thank you for being here. Around the world, women in all of their diversity are often the ones on the front lines of change. And yet at the same time, they face still greater obstacles to their political participation. They experience gender-based violence and human rights abuses. They hold less economic and social power. We are committed to changing that. Defending the rights of women and girls is rooted in our democratic values of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all. And when we advance equality and defend the rights of women, we improve life for everyone. When peace is forged with the participation and the leadership of women, it's more likely to last. We know this from experience. Closing the gender gap in the global workforce would add $28 trillion to the global economy. And as Secretary Albright once said, we simply cannot build the future that we want without the contribution of women. That's why President Biden has made gender equality and women's rights a priority of our foreign policy. Some of you know we recently launched the first ever cross-government strategy on women's global economic security to try to help reduce the enduring wage gap, to improve access to well-paying jobs, to dismantle barriers to women's economic participation. In December, the United States also updated our strategy to prevent and respond to gender-based violence globally, including new efforts to expand access to programs for historically marginalized communities. We're also learning from and teaming up with governments, civil society, the private sector, and other countries to work toward gender equality together, including, of course, the women that we're honoring today. One of those women, Hadil Abdelaziz, noted that when it comes to advancing this struggle, success is not about one big act, not about one big act of heroism, but 100 small battles. To our honorees, the United States is proud to be by your side as you and others wage those 100 small battles, day in, day out, and we will be there and be there with you for the long haul. That includes, of course, the First Lady of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden.
Thank you.
The First Lady.
Make America great again.
And thank you, Secretary Blinken. Tony, when Joe selected you to be Secretary of State, he knew that we had much to do abroad, from putting diplomacy at the center of foreign policy to rebuilding our global partnerships. And with every challenge we faced, you have ensured that we're better able to deliver for the American people because we have our allies by our side. Your integrity and statesmanship have helped us rally countries to stand with Ukraine against Russia's war of aggression, strengthen our ability to...
Did she leave Old Man Walter in the pack-in place so she can come give this speech, or what?
Thank you for all that you do. As the Secretary said, we are joined by leaders from around our country and across the globe. So to all of the members of the diplomatic corps here, thank you for joining us today. And as the Secretary
Did she get Botox in her cheeks?
of the incomparable Secretary Albright is with us, and I'm going to ask you to stand.
Poor microphones.
And they all came to help us carry on her legacy. And we have our Gender Policy Council, the first of its kind, and other leaders from across our administration.
Her face is like the Grinch.
Is a testament to our national commitment to gender equality around the globe and the powerful influence of the people we honor today, women of courage. Right here in the East Wing, we will tell their stories of fearlessness, resilience, and hope. We will hear from them in their own words. And there are people outside of this room who need to hear their stories too. The girls who will inherit this world. The future engineer who loves exploring, who sees magic in mechanics and technologies that connect us to each other, but is told, there's no place for you in the classroom. The future president or prime minister who is told that her voice is too loud or too bossy or too feminine, whatever that means. The child who lives in fear. The star who is told to hide her light. The girl who feels the smallness of the world closing in, afraid that her dreams are just too big to carry alone. Again and again and again, they wake up to find a world made for someone else and watch their brothers and their fathers and their uncles and their neighbors rise and grow while they are told to shrink, told that they're not good enough, not strong.
I don't know what world she's living in.
worthy of the lives that they dream about. But today, we're here to tell girls everywhere the truth that they need to hear. Yes, you matter. Yes, you can make a difference. And that's why we wanted to bring the leaders we're honoring today and the stories that they share to the biggest stage we could, the White House. And Tony, thank you for helping us do that. Girls everywhere need to know that there are women fighting for them and winning, opening doors, transforming schools and communities and governments, building a better world for all of us. And we're also here to say to their brothers and their fathers and their husbands and their friends, as much as we need women who are willing to speak up, we need more men who are willing to listen and act.
Yeah, those dang men are oppressing everybody. Let's fix women's sports. Let's start with that.
To hold each other accountable when their sisters are being hurt. Or
yeah, let's stop those shape-shifting predators. Her hand was just behind my shoulder.
who feed and teach and
I contracted a little bit.
build
My outie was almost an innie. It scared me.
more men who know that
Look, she's trying to touch me on the shoulder.
and kindness are signs of strength, not weakness. Men, we need you to support the women who are fighting for their rights and to lift up those who have been silenced.
This is a day to celebrate women, not condemn men. She'd be pissed if we did that during National Men's Day in November.
Partners with women, become the men of courage we need. Only then will we be able to build a world where men and women are equal and all people are free.
Then let's get rid of shape-shifting predators.
We are honoring today. Know that the enormous good you've done has no end. It touches every person who hears your story. It transforms us with new hope. As you seek justice, speak out, and pursue peace, you inspire others to find courage within ourselves and rise to that same call. And to every little girl who has wondered, can I, one person, one voice, one girl, fix what's broken? Let the women that we celebrate today be an answer to that question, an unequivocal yes. When you learn and
I wish the Orange Eagle would show up with some John Cena music and just drop kick her off stage.
and your head held high, step by step, you shift the ground beneath you. Draw strength from the women of courage who came before you.
USA Forever. She's gonna stick her tongue down your ear. God, I hope not.
And the ripples of
Look, she's trying to pat me on the back right now. She needs to keep her hands to herself.
And as you take those steps, as you grow into the women you will be, remember.
You guys are cracking me up in the chat. Wait till she starts sniffing your neck, Jeff. Patrick, you're killing me.
Please welcome Undersecretary for Civilian Security, Democracy, and Human Rights at the U.S. Department of State, Azra Zaya.
Well, that's a long title.
It takes courage to seek justice when the powerful stand against you. Laws can protect the innocent or persecute the oppressed. And when the rule of law becomes a tool of tyranny, or when the structures in place,
I got a big nose, but with a beak like that, I don't know how she gets food in her mouth.
fairness, and humanity, we appeal to a higher ideal, justice. The women we honor today have worked tirelessly to ensure that their nation's legal systems protect all people, no matter their gender, beliefs, or background. And when those systems cannot or will not protect every citizen, they have fought to transform them. They've broken barriers, risen to new heights, and inspired other young women to follow their lead. Because without women's rights, perspectives, and participation, there can be no justice. But when we all have the opportunity to shape our laws, we create systems that truly serve us all.
Présidente de la Cour constitutionnelle en République centrafricaine. J'espère avoir apporté ma marque.
We may just wrap this up. They're going to be playing music and all that stuff. Definitely ain't trying to catch a copyright flag over this. Press 1 if you're ready to move on to something else. I just want to see what the ceremony is. I think it's going to be a bunch of nonsense from here on out. Drop a 1 in the chat if you want to move on to the next topic, next video I got on the schedule. Press 2 if you want to sit here and watch this. What's up, Lusk? Happy freedom. Kevin, a light switch wouldn't make her pretty. That's terrible. That's terrible.
Now, Dr. Biden and Secretary Blinken will present the awards.
I'm seeing a lot of 1s in the chat. All right, we're just gonna move forward. We've seen enough of this.
As the first woman to lead the Central...
I thought it was gonna be something nice. It's International Women's Day. Leave it to the White House to screw that up. They can't even say what a woman is, so I mean, I shouldn't have expected more than what we got. Anyways, so this next video we're going to cover is titled "The FTC is Weaponizing the Power," its power against Elon Musk. This is talking about how the government is trying to get Elon Musk to identify all journalists on Twitter and forfeit a bunch of other information that technically belongs to Twitter. Give me a second to get this started. All right, hooligans, let's get her started.
Federal Trade Commission demanding that Elon Musk turn over internal Twitter documents, including a list of all the journalists who had access to the Twitter files.
Musk says this is a shameful case of weaponization of a government agency for the political purposes and suppression of the truth.
Joe Concha joins us now with more. Joe, what the heck happened to the First Amendment, freedom of the press? You know, that little thing called the Constitution.
Yeah, there is no reason why the FTC needs to know the identities of journalists engaging with Twitter. What is that? This is a private company, Twitter, and there's no reason why the FTC needs to know the internal communications within this company. This is yet another government agency weaponizing their power to go against what they see as a political foe, that foe being Elon Musk, who, since he's gone to Twitter, all we've seen is transparency in terms of what went on there and all the bias and suppression that went on under Jack Dorsey during that era. And now the FTC is getting involved here. It doesn't make any sense, Todd, actually.
Isn't it also a little odd? I mean, maybe you won't think it's that odd, but they're so specific about information about former FBI agent James Baker.
Yeah, why is that? Why did you fire him? How dare you?
Weird.
It's Elon Musk's company. They can fire and hire whoever they want. Again, this is why there is such low trust in government and institutions in general when we see our government acting this way and putting their nose and butting into situations they have no business butting into, guys.
Yeah, literally, the FTC is engaging in an HR question with regard to James Baker. It makes no sense. Like, that's not even in their purview. Isn't this just Biden and the Democrats thinking that the way government should work, that you should be able to use the power of administrative institutions to abuse your enemies?
It's the way it works in Moscow or Pyongyang or Beijing. In a democracy, which I believe we're still in, this is not how it should work, Ty.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like meddling to me. But now the Washington Post columnist says MLB should boycott Florida under DeSantis. It says the op-ed argues that baseball can no longer ignore Ron DeSantis' culture wars and suggests teams go west as long as DeSantis commands an attack on diversity. You know, the person who wrote this, they're not even from Florida, so I wonder what the people in Florida would say, how this is going to directly affect their economy. I mean, just if you have no skin in it, just stay out of it.
This is written by somebody who, Kevin Blackistone, who lives in Washington, is a professor at the University of Maryland, has no skin in the game, as you say, in Florida. Now, think about it. If you took all of these teams out of Florida, what does that do to all the businesses around there? Spring training is a big deal down there. Yeah, and thousands of people attend games in various cities on the east and west coast of Florida. Let's take it out.
All right. We're going to wrap that up. It's too much MLB stuff. The focus was Twitter and them infringing on Twitter's rights as a private business. Government doesn't have the authority to come and just demand all your documents and all this stuff because you're a business. You're private. You have the right to privacy. Unless they have reason to believe that you're breaking the law, they can't just demand your paperwork. Nope. They think they're the Gestapo anymore and nobody's doing anything about it. So this next video we're going to cover is titled, "We Put a Hit Out on the Wrong Bird." This is a continuation of the video that we covered yesterday, talking about the two individuals that are not supposed to be in our country legally. They shot an eagle down yesterday, apparently so they could eat it. I don't exactly know, but this is moving forward with that story.
We have a major
All right, hooligans, let's get her started.
update. Last night, we were a little upset after two illegals tried to eat our national bird. But in our haste to defend the bald eagle and even the score, we put a hit out on the wrong bird. Primetime team has discovered the identity of the national bird of Venezuela. It is called the trupial. It is an orange and black bird. It kind of looks like an oriole and, quite frankly, doesn't look as scrumptious as a bald eagle. Nevertheless, we will be sending Dana Lash to Venezuela to seek vengeance on their bird. So watch out, trupials. You're on notice. Turns out the bird we're really mad at is the scarlet macaw, the national bird of Honduras. That would have been more fitting because it was the two Honduran nationals who tried to eat our symbol of freedom. And now Primetime has received these exclusive photos of the two illegals. On the left is Domingo Zatinho Hernandez. He's believed to be the shooter. And the other suspect is Ramiro Hernandez Zaquin. He's the getaway driver. Both 20-year-old men have been charged with misdemeanors for their dine and dash, and they're expected at a court hearing next month. And Primetime will definitely be there. Will these two birds show up? Not so sure.
Hi, Winner Brian.
I want to know how they bonded out. So they're charged with misdemeanors. I assume that means they were arrested. So how did they bond out? How did they have the money to bond out? And just like the news guy said, they may or may not show up to court because that's an ongoing thing. That's the problem with people being here who is not supposed to be here because they didn't come here legally. How are you going to hold them accountable? There's no identification. There's no address or anything. The first time I went in, they told me that I couldn't even bond out because I was homeless when they arrested me. I was 17. I didn't have a place to live. I was staying at friends' house and sleeping outside and all kinds of stuff because I didn't have a place to live. And I ended up getting arrested for assault and battery because I got in a fight and whatever. But when it was time to bond out, they told me I couldn't leave unless I had an address. And so my dad had to come put his address down or else I was going to have to sit. They're It's messed up. Everybody thinks they got rights until they go inside, and then whatever happens to you, and nobody cares. And it sucks, which is why it's so bad that the J6ers are still incarcerated, especially with all the footage that's come out now. So how did they bond out? Where'd they get the money? Where were they released to? And why is there no expectation for them to come back? Well, it's because they're not supposed to be here. But that's okay. We're just going to keep letting them enter our country. It's a full-on invasion. It's Trash Bandicoot. It's not good. Especially when they're eating eagles. I don't know. It's infuriating. Anyways, this next story we're going to cover, this was an extraordinary admission by KJP. This is talking about Antifa. It's going to show a little bit of action and whatnot. I don't think there's anything that can't be shown on YouTube. I guess YouTube will tell us, won't they?
Fox.
Alright, let's get her started, hooligans. I'm going to read through the chat while this video is playing.
News alert. We have newly released video on the lead up to Sunday's violent attack on Atlanta's Cop City. The shocking footage shows a mob of some 150 people descending on the site of a future police training facility before hurling Molotov cocktails and destroying machinery. The group, filmed by a police helicopter's heat-sensitive cameras, marches through woodland before unleashing havoc and setting fire to a power line. The Atlanta Police Department also releasing this new video from the time of the attack when the mob set fires and threw bricks and rocks at officers.
This is the Cop City site. Construction vehicles are up in flames. Like a trailer for the construction crew, about to be up in flames.
23 people have been arrested and charged with domestic terrorism over the riots. They are expected in court next hour. Now, among them is Thomas Jurgens, an attorney at the far-left Southern Poverty Law Center. That organization says he was there as a, quote, legal observer and is downplaying the situation, calling the arrests, quote, a heavy-handed law enforcement intervention. Meanwhile, the protests there are not on the White House's radar at all.
Dozens of people were arrested protesting the so-called Cop City. Is the president aware of this? And is the White House worried about this escalating?
Wait, say that again. What was the protest?
The protest was, it's a facility, a training facility that's being constructed for police officers.
Look at Harry Potter just dead behind the eyes.
It's near a black residential area. The concern is the president aware of this? Is the White House concerned about this escalating?
No, we have not been, I've not heard any discussions about this protest over the weekend. This is the first time I'm hearing about this protest over the weekend.
Kaylee, for an administration that pats itself on the back as being aware of and wanting to combat domestic
So now it's at the point where everyone except the White House is acknowledging Antifa. I remember when we first were showing Antifa, people would hop in the chat and they'd say, that's not Antifa. This is somebody else. Antifa is just an idea. No, it's not. It's a behavior. It's a group of individuals that act like terrorists. That's what it is. They are domestic terrorists. That is what they are. And then it says, you know, in the video that we just covered, most of those people aren't even from Atlanta. Even when they were protesting here for Patrick Lyoya in Grand Rapids, the majority of the protesters were from Minneapolis. They're from Minnesota. They had to bus them in because there wasn't enough people here up in arms about what happened because, well, don't grab a cop's taser, maybe you'll live longer. I mean, it's too bad what happened, but, you know, every action has a reaction. It's science. I don't know, but there wasn't enough mad people here, so they had to bus them in from Minnesota. And they even brought Al Sharpton here. And it didn't work out. They didn't have enough momentum. But they're out there in Atlanta burning stuff down. At least they're actually arresting them this time. What happened to all the stuff in Portland? Those guys are free. Out there smoking meth and doing what they want to do. Everyone but the White House understands what's going on. So this next video is a continuation of that. This is MTG introduces resolution to designate Antifa as domestic terrorists.
A woman from Georgia.
All right, hooligans, let's get her started.
A woman from Georgia seek recognition.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to announce that I'm introducing a House resolution to designate Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. America has had enough of these terrorists. Just this past weekend, Antifa-affiliated rioters set fire to the future Atlanta police training facility by attacking it, an organized attack that's all captured on video. Molotov cocktails and other destructive items, fireworks, they all fired at police officers and set fire to the construction site, causing much damage. There were over 30 people arrested. Now here's the issue, only 2 of them were actually from Georgia. The rest of them were from other places in the country, and several of them from other countries like France and Canada. One of them happened to be an attorney for the Southern Poverty Law Center. That's disgraceful. This all comes on the heels of after Antifa terrorizing Americans for years now. Never forget, in the summer of 2020, Antifa caused over $2 billion in damage, setting fires to cities, businesses, and attacking police officers and killing people. Yet over 95% of those arrested had their charges dropped. I yield back.
They didn't want to hear any more of that. Too much truth coming out. They had to let her know her time expired. Alright, so this next video will be the last one as far as having YouTube in the room. Before it's over and we cut everything off, I will put out the links. I'm sure Snooks will help to get you guys over to the free speech platforms so you can continue on with the rest of the show today. We have probably 40 minutes, almost an hour still after we end the YouTube side of things, just to let you guys know. So this next video is titled Russell Brand and Tucker Carlson Talk Spiritually and Fame. I thought this video was interesting. It's pretty lighthearted. I think it's a good way to wrap things up on the YouTube side of things. There's Tucker Carlson giving us the Tucker Carlson face. I think it was Serum said he always has a face like he's looking into the sun. Cracks me up. All right, let's get her started.
Russell Brand has been an actor, a comedian, a podcast host for decades. All of a sudden, he's one of the most forceful voices for the truth in the English-speaking world. He's also a deeply interesting person with a lot of insights about God. Amazingly, Russell Brand. We sat down with him for a long conversation. A brand new episode of Tucker Carlson today. Here's a small part of it.
As much as I might enjoy the feeling of privilege and luxury, and I'm certainly making no claims to be an ascetic, I remember what reality is. I remember that my wellness is contingent upon spiritual connection, upon certain values and principles, and I am sorry to admit, involve sacrifice and self-scrutiny about my own conduct and behaviour, which is often fall short, and I'm working on improving myself. I continue to work on improving myself. So when I sort of hear morality sort of as bombast, or when I hear rhetoric divorced from compassion, it makes me feel uneasy. So I've been blessed with a very practical spirituality, like many desperate people. I need spirituality, I need God, or I cannot cope in this world. I need to believe in the best in people. I need to believe that there are new alliances possible, new ways of us communicating, because I see actual atrophying and corrupt systems delivering yet more misery to people. And I think it's increasingly necessary that we find new ways of framing the conversation and looking into our hearts when we're speaking. Are we being kind? Are we being loving? Are we being the best that we can be? On whose behalf are we speaking? And what is my intention moment to moment? Am I doing this for self-glorification? Am I doing this because I have obligations to Rumble, the platform I'm on? Or am I doing this because I genuinely believe that a better world is possible, and that world is born individually within each of us moment to moment, and it's possible to change? I genuinely believe in change, and I'm not at my core a misanthrope. I don't believe that we need systems of condemnation. I don't believe that if people aren't heavily policed and heavily controlled, they will behave badly. I believe that we can self-organize. I believe I'm optimistic about your country, and I'm optimistic about mine, and I'm optimistic about the world. But I think the price of that optimism is a degree of reason and an acceptance that many people see the world very, very differently at this time. Right. And we're going to have to allow one another some distance to be who we are, whether that's individually or communally. And these are the areas that interest me. And these are the things that have always interested me. The fact was, I just didn't have enough self-discipline to resist the allure of stardom, and I fell face first into the glitter, and I'm only just pulling myself out now. But once I stopped drinking and taking drugs, it became clear that there was a lot more on offer. The ability to, in fact, as they say, recovery, the term recovery is undergirded by the idea that we recover the person we're intended to be. And this idea of intention, I think, is rather beautiful, because when you live in a nihilistic, post-rationalistic, materialistic world where there can be no telos, where there can be no glory, where there can be no meaning, none of us are meant to be anything. But the idea that there might be a purpose for you, that there might be something that you can become. This, I found this idea very engaging and very comforting, and I've got to be honest, it also engaged the more egoic and narcissistic aspect of me, that I could achieve something in my life. But as time has gone on, there's an ongoing tension between those things. Individual achievement and a sort of an ongoing desire for recognition and plaudits, but a deeper understanding that there is something valuable here on offer, that we can achieve something. And it's actually sort of quite humble, irritatingly, isn't it? Like that it's mostly about helping people directly. My worldview is formed by spiritual principles rather than political principles, that my values are derived from quite simple ideas around kindness, community, acceptance, gratitude, and I'm making no claim to practice these principles anything like perfectly, but at least I know what I'm aspiring to, and I know that my spirituality is about my conduct and how I behave rather than telling other people how they should behave.
Well, that's something. I can't remember who said, I read it in the chat. He needs to take a breath. Yeah, he just really spilled his guts there. I don't know. I know that he's been involved in a bunch of questionable stuff. He runs a podcast on Rumble now. I see him live all the time. I've never watched his live, but I see it every time I get on Rumble. He's live. A lot of people like him, a lot of people don't. I just thought that it was pretty lighthearted. There wasn't nothing too bad about what he was saying. I think that everybody should be self-aware, take a look at themselves, and always try to make improvements. I try to do that as much as I can. Sometimes I'm a little too hard on myself. I beat myself into the ground. But growth is good. Growth is good. So I'm going to give you guys my spiel deal, and then we're going to wrap things up for YouTube. We're going to continue on with the rest of the show on all the free speech platforms. I'm going to post the links in the chat. I already have a few times now, but I'm going to do it once again. I'm going to give you guys the spiel deal. You will have until my spiel is over to come to the free speech platforms. As far as suggestions, I guess Rumble would be the best one to go to or try out. As far as free platforms, use a browser like Google Chrome or Mozilla or Safari or whatever browser you use. That way you can see the live chat over there. Otherwise, if you use the app, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to see it, or it's going to be difficult to navigate. So use a browser, go to Rumble. As far as best overall, you should go to JeffMACLive.com, get yourself a membership. I have the link for a free week membership, no strings attached, no credit card information or anything like that. After the week is up, your membership will just expire. If you like the privileges you had of being at the Hooligan home, you're welcome to come back and purchase a membership. It is a reoccurring monthly subscription We have 3 different options, which is really just how much you want to show support. There's not really a difference between the 3 memberships, but it is the best place to be. We have our own social media. We have our own live streaming area with a chat where you guys can hang out. You don't have to worry about community guidelines or being censored or anything like that. It's nice and free over there, and it is the best way to support what I do. To get yourself a membership over at JeffMACLive.com. So give me a second to set up the page so you can see what I'm looking at. I'm going to give you guys the spiel, and you will have until it's over to move over to the free speech platforms. Alright, I'm going to read you the spiel really quick. You have until my spiel is over to make your way over to the free speech platforms. I just posted all the links in the YouTube chat. As soon as I'm done, we're going to be cutting off YouTube, and we're going to continue on with the rest of the show over on Odyssey, Rumble, Twitch, JeffMACLive.com. We're live on Twitter. Pretty much YouTube's the only one that has community guidelines that hates us. So either way, when you get a second, please go to JeffMACLive.com. You can also find the link in the description on any live platform right now. On the homepage, you can find all of my links listed. You can find the link to join Gilded for free. Gilded is currently the best way to receive notifications for when and where we go live. You'll also receive notifications for important updates and things I feel you should know. There is a news board on Gilded to keep you up to date with everything going on around the world. And there's a ton of hooligans on there to hang out with all day, every day, to chat it up about pretty much whatever you like. So definitely join Gilded. Also on the JeffMAC Live homepage, you can find links to the merch store if you would like to grab some merch. We have shirts, hoodies, stickers, and coffee mugs. Everything is displayed in black and white or white and black. But if you find something you like, just click on that link to see all the, or on that item, to see all the colors that that item comes in. You can also find links for PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, Stripe, Zelle, and Buy Me a Coffee if you would like to support what I do. There's also links to the Amazon wish list if you would like to send me stuff. It's really easy to use. Anything you purchase directly from the wish list will be sent straight to me without having to send an email or find information or anything like that. Also, my birthday is on the 11th, so if you guys send me stuff, on the last week of March, we will set up a day for unboxing. We'll do a birthday unboxing live where we will open up everything you guys send me live on the show. We may even do a beer review while we're doing it. We'll see how it goes. Also, if you would like to send me something of your own doing, you can find the P.O. box on the contact page of the JeffMAC Live website. You don't have to have a membership in order to access that. You can access that just by going to the navigation menu at the top of the website. Find the P.O. box. If you do send me something to the P.O. box, send me an email with the tracking number. That way I know what day to go pick stuff up, because the post office doesn't like me very much, and they are really quick to send my packages back. They will not answer my questions over the phone and all these other problems because the post office sucks, and we've had a lot of issues. So if you send me the tracking number, I can show up the day it's supposed to be there and demand that they give me my packages. So again, birthday's on the 11th, so if you want to send me stuff, we will do a birthday unboxing. And then finally, we have membership programs listed on the JeffMAC Live website. We have memberships for YouTube, Gilded, Discord, Odyssey, Rumble, and Twitch. And then once again, JeffMACLive.com itself is a social media / live streaming with live chat platform that you have to have a membership in order to access. It is the best way to support what I do. So definitely go get a membership for JeffMACLive.com. All right, hooligans, I'm going to read through the chat really quick, make sure there is no issues over on YouTube, and then we are going to wrap things up for YouTube and move forward. So just give me a moment. Everybody looks content. For everyone over on the free speech live platforms, go ahead, take your seat, get you some riot snacks, go and refill your coffee. We'll be starting again in just a moment. I gotta help the YouTube platform out of the room. For all of you hooligans that watch on YouTube, I appreciate all of you. Hopefully you join us on the free speech platforms so you can watch what's gonna happen next.